The movie begins with a young girl trapped in between walls. Not long after, cement begins pouring down on her from all angles. The little girl cannot go anywhere else. She is buried alive. The scene moves to 15 years later. A young engineer, Sam, has just graduated from college. At her graduation party, her father, an owner of a demolition company, gives her a gift: a job supervising the demolition of a building in the middle of nowhere. If she's successful, she will become his partner. Her first assignment happens to be this gigantic, unique architectural structure, an apartment building located out in the middle of nowhere. The structure is the product of Joseph Malestraza, who was an eccentric architect obsessed with Egyptian architecture. Samantha arrives at the Malestraza building and is greeted by Mary, the caretaker. She lives with her son, Jimmy, who is a loner kid. Sam tells Mary she will be staying in one of the apartments in the building. Jimmy takes her bags to her apartment and explains the rules of the building. She is to stay off the 8th floor because it is Malestraza's, and the roof because it is too dangerous. As she is walking to her room, she sees a room labeled as Julie's. She then enters her room and immediately takes a bath to clean herself up. Later that day, she meets Mary and asks her, "How many people still live in this apartment?" Mary replies that only 4 people live in it. Mary and Jimmy are in the building to look after it until its day of destruction. All the other tenants have been evicted, but 2 have refused to leave. The next day, Sam prepares to analyze the structure of the building. Sam is in charge of providing a report on how much TNT is needed to knock down this building. She must determine the best rupture points and type of explosives. A few hours later, she goes to a mini market to buy some food and drinks. Out of curiosity, she borrows a computer to browse the history of the apartment building. She discovers that in 1993, there were a series of missing people. When they were finally found, it was horrific. 16 people, men, women, and children, were sealed in small compartments in the building, which were then filled with liquid concrete. One of the victims was the architect himself, Malestraza. A construction worker was initially blamed for the murders, but then found innocent, leaving the crimes unsolved and the murderer unknown. Back at the building, Sam again marks the best rupture points to knock down the building, but she is surprised when a man runs towards her carrying an axe. It turns out that this man is one of the tenants who still lives in this building and refuses to leave, and he is unhappy about the destruction of the building. At night, Jimmy secretly takes Sam to the 8th floor, the forbidden floor. Jimmy tells Sam about Malestraza, the architect of the building, who died inside the wall. He enters a room and shows her the wall where Malestraza's body was found. When his body was found, his face was almost ripped off because of the cement. His face was no longer recognizable. His mother, Mary, was the one who finally managed to identify him. Jimmy also informs her that out of the 16 victims, there was a small child named Julie. She was the child shown at the beginning of the film. She was also the child living in the room Sam saw before. Furthermore, Jimmy tells her that his father was also one of the victims. He then proceeds to show her the wall where his father was found. The lights go out, and Sam cuts her leg after panicking in the darkness. Later, Jimmy washes her wound and begins to caress her thigh. It becomes obvious that the young guy fancies her, and he tries to make a move on her, but she tells him to stop. In the evening, Sam, who is looking in the mirror, sees the glass behind her shaking violently. She lifts the mirror and sees blood flowing out of the hole. Suddenly, Sam is immediately pulled into the wall, and she wakes up realizing that she is now trapped inside. A moment later, cement begins pouring down on her from all angles. She cannot go anywhere else, and she starts screaming.